story of revolutionary technology that can edit genetic mistakes is getting attention and scrutiny this morning. CRISPR could help rid us of diseases like cystic fibrosis, muscular dystrophy, and even HIV and cancer. Think about that. Many scientists, including CRISPR's developer, Jennifer Doudna, are calling for a moratorium on its use in humans. Tomorrow, she holds a global summit on the ethical issues, and only on CBS This Morning, Doudna shows us why, for all its promise, CRISPR is surrounded by controversy. What is CRISPR?
CRISPR, first of all, it's an acronym. It stands for Clustered Regularly Interspaced Short Palindromic Repeats, a huge mouthful. You can see why we use the acronym CRISPR.
So I'm sorry, what's
the code of life? You could go in and snip out a piece and replace it with something that corrects a mutation that would cause disease.
That's incredible.
It's incredible.
CRISPR has generated immense excitement because it's fast, cheap, and can cut and paste genetic code with great precision. It used to take months or years to alter a single gene. Now, that can be done in a matter of days.
Could it end cancer?
It was first developed by Canadian researchers 30 years ago.
He took a gene from a Chinook salmon and he injected that into an Atlantic salmon, because it's one gene from a Chinook and 44,000 genes from an Atlantic salmon, that actually accelerates its growth in its most vulnerable stages.
Which is another huge part of containment. But even on top of all of that, we still have physical barriers in place.
Critics have labelled the salmon Frankenfish and question whether it's safe for human consumption. But after years of testing, the US Food and Drug Administration cleared the salmon in 2015, making it the only genetically engineered animal approved for food use by Washington.
Our salmon is the most heavily tested food in the history of mankind. And what they concluded was that our Aqua Advantage salmon.
Jesus himself all promised that the Son of God would return to create heaven on earth. And throughout the ages, billions of Christians have wondered, when? But what if the second coming is here, now? There are a number of would-be messiahs who claim exactly that, and few are more physically convincing than a former Russian traffic cop named Sergei Torov. In the woods of rural Siberia, he is known as Vissarion, the teacher, and around 5,000 disciples live around him, growing their own food and feasting on his every word.
My whole body was trembling. The trembling is not coming again. but it's very emotional to me.
In our series, World of Worship, we're exploring different ways people practice faith and religion around the globe. Today, we're taking a look at one of the fastest growing religions in the world, the Baha'i Faith. There are now more than 100,000 Baha'i communities worldwide. CBS This Morning's Saturday co-host, there she is, Dana Jacobson. Hey, Dana, recently visited one in Wilmette, Illinois. So the question is, Dana, what's the heart of this religion?
Well, Gail, the one word that we kept hearing to describe the Baha'i Faith was unity. In Arabic, it means follower of glory. It was founded in 1844 in Iran, and the religion teaches the oneness of all world religions with principles that seem universal. If you're intrigued, come on with me now on a journey to the Mother Temple of the West.
Just outside Chicago, on the shores of Lake Michigan,
construction started in 1921.
Sits the oldest surviving Baha'i house of worship.
Every Baha'i temple has 9 sides, 9 doors, 9 gardens, and fountains.
What's the significance of 9?
9 is a symbol of completeness and unity.
Joyce Litoff was attracted to the Baha'i faith because she says it teaches what she already believes.
My mother was Jewish, my father was Catholic, and then I married a Jewish man, so I've actually lived in 2 religious communities.
Yeah.
And when I learned about the Baha'i faith that embraces the teachings of other religions, it made total sense to me.
The idea of oneness is carved into the temple's exterior, which includes the Jewish Star of David, the Christian cross, and the Star and Crescent of Islam.
And is the idea that this is encompassing all religions? All faiths?
Well, that's a little bit of a misconception that the Baha'i faith is a mishmash, that we believe everything. We believe in this progressive revelation that the teachings of these great spiritual teachers, they all had their time and place. And so we embrace the religions that came before.
Krishna. All right.
Baha'is believe theirs is the religion of the future. Inside each temple, there's one dome representing one god.
Be generous in your days of plenty.
At least twice a day, there are prayer services with readings from various world religions, but no sermons and no clergy. That lack of ritual is partly what drew 28-year-old Matthew. Because there's no hierarchy in the religion, Baha'is around the world elect at least 9 people to represent them in their local spiritual assemblies.
There are no ministers. So the burden is back on the individual to not only read the writings that the best thing in my sight is justice.
Right.
Oh, I'm going to be just in the things that I do.
A community working toward justice by focusing on practicing instead of preaching.
In North Carolina at the time, and white and black together at a time where that didn't happen. He would see a white family show up and would think, why are they here and what is going on? So this has been their message from the beginning, that idea of unity.
The Antichrist.
Make Israel the main target of attacks and take down U.S. President Donald Trump. That's what an Islamic State spokesman is revealing in a terrifying 37-minute voice recording published on social media. The recording says things like, "In the coming days, God willing, you will see what harms you and what will make you forget the horrors you have seen," as well as, "Allah has gathered you in Palestine so that the Muslims may kill you." The threats come as Prime Minister Netanyahu and political rival Benny Gantz joined Trump in his office this week to go over the peace proposal. Though ISIS has been fighting a violent war with Egyptians in the Sinai Peninsula, the IDF believes the ISIS affiliate there will soon turn its attention to Israel. The IDF's chief of staff says the army needs to be prepared for the breakout of war in a very short period of time.
Because victims know the laws won't be enforced.
Our car windows got busted. I didn't bother making a report.
You're in the police department.
Hey, we're not immune to that. We're not immune to that at all.
Criminals act with impunity because they know there aren't consequences. We film drug dealers selling drugs.
I could come back for my days off and they're back out on the street.
San Francisco has definitely become more dirty, more dangerous.
Yeah, film me, motherfucker.
Rather than confront the drug use like a normal city, San Francisco enables drug use by distributing roughly 400,000 free syringes every month. City leaders say that giving out syringes reduces the risk of disease.
Of course, no one wants to have somebody get HIV or Hep C, but the unintended consequences is insanity.
And even though city leaders bill the syringe program as an exchange, only 60% are ever returned, meaning they're giving needles to drug addicts.
It's like a minefield because you never know what's coming around the corner.
So we give as many needles as we possibly can. Well, they end up here. They end up here. It is dangerous, disgusting, and it's got to stop.
And just to give you a sense of how big these swarms are, one was spotted in a part of Kenya that contained about 200 billion of these creatures. And in the sky, it occupied a space 3 times the size of New York City. And as the Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN has warned, they could increase 500-fold by June if not contained and checked immediately.
And for Kenya in 70 years. The insects can spread fast and other countries are now at risk. The swarms have already destroyed tens of thousands of hectares of crops. Millions of people, already short of food, could face famine. Somalia and Pakistan have declared a state of emergency. The UN says that if action isn't taken fast enough, Somalia's infestation could become the most devastating plague in living memory, and it's asked for $76 million in aid to help control the outbreak. Al Jazeera's Priyanka Gupta reports.
Up 12 hours.
The silver solution being sold on Baker's website now is basically colloidal silver. The problem is
seeing the falling away from the Christian faith, which leads up to the next question. How close are we to the rapture of the church?
Martyrs Free Church in Edinburgh, part of the history of Christianity in Scotland. Today it's Frankenstein, which describes itself as both a family-friendly venue and a place for stag parties and bar-top dancers. This is St. Paul's Church in Bristol, England. It's now a school for circus performers. And in Linares, Spain, the Church of Santa Barbara is now Chaos Temple, a skateboard park. But before you get angry with the owners of Frankenstein, understand that Europe today has more empty church buildings than it knows what to do with, because Europe is by and large no longer Christian.
These are the remnants.
I'm a third, fourth generation pagan in my family.
God is still moving in Europe, but the larger culture has been lost. And although some governments might still be officially Christian, they are now openly persecuting Christians.
Jesus said as a sign of
Home to the Arc de Triomphe, Eiffel Tower, and Notre Dame Cathedral. Unfortunately, this epitome of beauty and culture is also one of the places across Europe experiencing a rise in acts of anti-Semitism.
We are facing threats throughout Europe, and the question rises day to day whether or not there's a present and a future for Jews in Europe.
Rabbis Kovesh and Menachem Margolin believe a future is possible if they act now. That's why they invited some 300 world leaders to come together here and confront what's facing the Jewish community.
Unfortunately, here in Europe, one of the challenges is the anti-Semitism and the rise of anti-Semitism, which is strengthened from all sides, whether it's from the extreme Muslims or from the extreme left or from the extreme right.
Jew hatred is Jew hatred. What difference